All right, so today we are going to be diving into some ancient Chinese military strategy.
Ooh, always a good time.
Always a good time, exactly.
Yeah.
So, we're looking at The Art of War by Master Taigong,
Okay.
specifically Chapter 32, which focuses on the idea of the three formations.
The three formations.
Yeah, have you heard about this before?
I've heard of it in passing, but I'm excited to hear what you've
Okay,
up.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it starts with King Wu, who is about to be the first ruler of the Zhou dynasty,
Uh-huh.
and he goes to his advisor,
Mm-hmm.
Jiang Taigong,
Okay.
and asks him about the three formations.
Okay.
So I think first, just to kind of set the scene a little bit more, can you tell us a bit about who these two figures were, King Wu and Jiang Taigong?
Sure. So King Wu and Jiang Taigong, also known as Liu Shang, were two extremely important figures in ancient Chinese history.
Okay.
King Wu was the founder of the Zhou dynasty, which was one of the longest-lasting dynasties in Chinese history.
Wow.
So extremely influential figure. And Jiang Taigong was his chief strategist and advisor.
Okay.
He was renowned for his wisdom, his military prowess, and his political acumen.
Hmm.
And he played a pivotal role in helping King Wu overthrow the previous Shang dynasty and establish the Zhou dynasty.
I see.
And the reason that military strategy was so vital to them during this period was it was a time of constant warfare. There was all these different states vying for power.
Okay.
And so having a sound military strategy was absolutely essential for survival.
Gotcha. So like they really needed to understand what they were doing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, so the king asks about these three formations. The first one is the heavenly formation.
Hmm.
And the way Taigong describes it, he uses this really interesting metaphor. He talks about the sun and moon and stars and the Big Dipper all being positioned strategically.
Okay.
So what's the meaning behind that? Like, how do they actually use the celestial bodies for warfare?
That's a great question. And it really speaks to the sophistication of ancient Chinese military thinking. Okay.
They understood that the heavens, the celestial bodies, could provide them with valuable information and advantages on the battlefield.
Like what?
Well, for one thing, they used the stars for navigation,
Okay.
right? So they could orient themselves, determine their position, even at night.
Oh, I see.
They also use the celestial cycles, the movements of the sun and moon, to determine the best times for launching attacks.
Oh, wow.
Or, for example, planning maneuvers.
Interesting.
And they even believed that the positions of certain stars could influence the outcome of battles.
So it's kind of like almost like an early form of battlefield awareness, right?
Exactly.
Using the stars as like their compass and their calendar, right?
Precisely. Yeah. They were very attuned to the rhythms of nature. And they incorporated that into their military strategy.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like how practical was that? I mean, were they really like consulting star charts in the middle of a battle?
Well, they probably weren't whipping out, like, star charts mid-battle.
Yeah, but the knowledge of the heavens would have informed their overall strategy.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So, for example, a general might time a night attack under the cover of a new moon.
Okay.
Or use the position of the Big Dipper to orient his troops during a long march.
Makes sense.
So it was about having that awareness, that understanding of the celestial influences, which could give them an edge. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So it's pretty cool when you think about it.
Yeah, that's amazing. All right, so then the next formation, the earthly formation. This one seems a little bit more obvious, maybe.
Yeah.
Talks about using the terrain to one's advantage, so hills, springs, rivers, stuff like that.
Right.
I mean, that's pretty basic, right? Like, everyone would have been doing that.
You would think so, but it's surprising how often armies throughout history have failed to take full advantage of the terrain.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and in ancient China, they really understood the importance of this.
Okay.
Taigong stresses the need to know the land, to understand its features, and to use them to your advantage.
So, like, give me some examples. How would they actually do that?
Well, let's say you're an army defending a mountain pass.
Okay.
You could position your troops in such a way that you create a bottleneck, forcing the enemy to attack you through a narrow passage
Oh, I see.
where you have the advantage. Or you could use rivers and marshes to protect your flanks, making it difficult for the enemy to outflank you.
Okay.
Or you could even use the terrain to set traps or ambushes. So there were all sorts of ways to exploit the terrain to your advantage.
I see. So it's not just about knowing the terrain. It's about knowing how to use it
Exactly.
to, like, manipulate it to your advantage.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and a great example of this, it's not from ancient China,
Okay.
but it really illustrates the point beautifully, is the Battle of Thermopylae.
Oh, yeah, the Spartans.
Exactly, the Spartans.
Okay.
In 480 BC, a small force of Spartans held off a massive Persian army for days by exploiting a narrow pass called Thermopylae. They knew that in that narrow space, their superior training and discipline would give them the advantage.
Wow.
And they inflicted heavy casualties on the Persians before they were eventually overwhelmed.
So terrain can really be like a weapon in itself, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so we've got the heavens and the earth covered.
Yeah, right.
Now the last formation, the human formation.
Yeah.
This one feels a little bit more abstract.
Yeah.
So Taigong mentions chariots and horses, but then he also talks about combining civil and military strategies.
Right.
So what does that mean exactly?
This is where Taigong really emphasizes the human element of warfare. He understands that it's not just about having the biggest army or the best weapons.
Right.
It's about having skilled leaders, motivated soldiers, and a united populace.
Okay.
It's about understanding the psychology of your enemy and your own people.
So it's not just about, like, brute force. It's about, like, the mental game, too.
Exactly, yeah, the psychological aspect of warfare. And the human formation also stresses the importance of combining military might with political strategy. So things like diplomacy, propaganda, economic warfare, all of these things could be used to weaken your enemy and strengthen your own position.
Oh, I see. So it's like a much more holistic approach to warfare.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that war is not just about battles, it's about winning the hearts and minds of the people.
Wow. That's powerful stuff.
Yeah, and it's an idea that has resonated throughout history.
Do you think they had any specific examples of this approach, like during Taigong's time?
Oh, absolutely. During the Warring States period, which was a few centuries after Taigong, there were all sorts of examples of states using this combined approach.
Like what?
Well, for example, the state of Qin, which eventually unified all of China,
Yeah.
they were known for their ruthless military campaigns. But they also used diplomacy and political maneuvering to weaken their rivals.
Oh, okay.
They would forge alliances with some states while turning others against each other. And they used propaganda to undermine their enemies' morale.
Interesting.
And this multifaceted approach proved incredibly effective in helping them achieve their ultimate goal of unification.
That's fascinating. So it's like they were playing 3D chess while everyone else was playing checkers.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
Cool. Okay, so the end of the chapter, King Wu just says, excellent,
Yeah.
after hearing about these three formations.
Yeah.
So it seems like he definitely got the message.
Yeah, I think he understood the wisdom of Taigong's insights that successful warfare, or really any kind of conflict, requires a deep understanding of not just the physical aspects, but also the mental and the strategic.
Yeah, so even though these three formations, they were developed for ancient warfare,
Right.
they seem like they still hold up pretty well today.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Like, it makes me think about, in business or in politics or even just like in our personal lives.
Yeah.
How often do we only focus on like the most obvious aspects of a problem? Like, instead of taking a step back and considering all the different angles,
Right.
the heavenly, the earthly, and the human.
I love that.
Yeah. So what do you think? Do you think these ancient concepts of strategy, can they still be relevant in the modern world?
Absolutely. I think they're more relevant than ever.
Yeah.
The world is becoming increasingly complex and interconnected.
Yeah.
And to navigate it successfully, we need to think strategically to consider all of the factors at play. Just like those ancient Chinese generals.
That's amazing. So I guess that's something for our listeners to ponder.
Definitely.
How can we apply these ancient ideas of the three formations to our own lives?
Yeah, that's a great question to think about.
Yeah. And thanks for diving deep with me today.
It was my pleasure.
All right. And we'll see you next time.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye.